Hey everybody, in this tutorial we're going to be exploring the different types of particle effects that are contained with the PopcornFX plugin, as well as the PopcornFX library 40, a number of different PopcornFX cool effects contained within that library, so I'd recommend checking it out, and I'll provide a link in the description below as always. So on the screen right now, let's just jump into it. I have a couple of particle effects already prepared. The one on the left is going to be a Billboard texture, the one in the middle is going to be a ribbon, and the one on the right is going to be a mesh emitter. And we're going to be talking about these different types of emitters as we go on through this tutorial here. So what I'm going to do is just select any one of them here. You can see this little activate circle is active on just these three. So the mesh, the Billboard, and the ribbon, like I mentioned before. Let's go to our popcorn tab over here. We can press simulate or just press Shift S to simulate. And you can see on the left here we have our Billboard, just a bunch of different dots just shooting up in a repetitive pattern. That's the Billboard type right here. Okay, and the middle one is the ribbon type. We're going to be talking about that as well later on. And on the right we have the mesh type. So this is actually emitting its actual meshes. You can see it's casting a shadow. So we're actually emitting different meshes that have their own geometry with this particular emitter. So let's just jump right into it. I'm going to press Shift S and stop the simulation here. And let's take a look at the texture emitter first. So I'm going to go to my scene here. I'm going to just deactivate the mesh emitter and deactivate the ribbon emitter for now. And we're going to focus only, again, Shift S to simulate, on this texture emitter. And you can see right now if I rotate my camera around, this texture is always facing the camera. So no matter where I rotate up or down, it's always going to be facing the camera. Okay? And the reason for that is, if I go over to my PopcornFX tab over here, we'll have a feature under texture emitter called always facing the camera, or let's go ahead and make sure we have the right one selected there. There we go. So we have this align mode under particle mode, align modes called face camera. Okay, now you can change this, but first what I'm going to do before I change this, I'm going to kind of show you how you can change the texture really easily. So if I go ahead and go down to this item right here, this no lit 1 item right here, I'm going to just press Shift S and undo or stop the simulation there. When you go to this item right here under the particles, you can change the diffuse map for your particles. So right now we just have a white diffuse map and a couple other things applied to it. But I'm just going to go ahead and double click that diffuse channel right there and load in a blue arrow. Very simple texture, and Shift S to simulate one more time. And now you can see we have arrows, which are again emitting at the same pace and always facing the camera. Now the cool thing about the texture emitter is you can actually change the force of your texture that's emitting from whatever the dummy, I guess. Okay, so you can go down here to particle settings, and under force, there's a number of different gravity options here, wind options. I'll just show you an example here. The X, Y, and Z are the top, middle, and bottom ones respectively. So X, Y, and Z. Okay, so if I change this on the X-axis, for example, we'll have coming towards us. All right. We can have it kind of going away from us like this on the x-axis, okay? Because this is the x-axis. If we go to the side, it'll have the same direction, but the image will always be facing us. And again, that's because we have the face mode on, and I'll explain the other modes a little bit later. Let's take this back down to regular level there, and you can see the Y value. You can go from the right to the left just like this. And the Z gravity will allow you to go really fast upwards, or you can kind of have it kind of just falling down to the ground like this. So there's a lot of creative uses, potential creative uses for these gravity forces here. I'm just going to go ahead and set them all back down to 0 here. And let's now change our camera facing to a different face. So we're going to go up here to face cam. We can have align mode at face cam again, rotate around, always facing the camera. We also have align mode we can set to vertical. All right, so vertical is used for things like rain. So if I rotate upwards, you'll notice that we have, it's basically going on the Y or on the Z axis rather, straight up and down. Okay, so we can rotate up like this, we can barely see it, and then as we get down like this, we can see it a bit more, almost like rain falling from the sky. Okay. However, we can also have a horizontal option here, and horizontal will kind of be like ripples along a water, and I'll show you an example of this later on. So if we go directly above it, we'll see kind of relatively horizontally placed images. If we go to the side, we can barely see them now in this case. Okay, and then we also have ones called align mode called velocity. So velocity, you can't really see much of a difference in this case, but with velocity, if you change the force, let's change the force to the Z force, for example, you'll see that, let's just change to the side a little bit, you'll see that it will follow the direction of the actual velocity. So if you rotate around here, you'll see that, boom, you can barely see it. And notice that, it's just kind of following the velocity that you apply with the gravity items right here. Okay, so that's your basics for the different ways that your texture mat or your texture emitter can face the camera, and how the velocity alignment is affected by force. All right, let's just Shift S and undo that there. So a couple of examples of this I have already applied to my scene here. I'm just going to disable my texture emitter for now. So a good example of the face cam texture emitter is the smoke one. And the smoke you can find in the PopcornFX Library 40 folder there, and go to, I believe it's Weapons Explosion, and then you'll find the smoke emitter right there. Okay, just so you're aware of where to find that. So let's just go ahead and enable the smoke one here. And with the smoke one, you have a number of different options here as well. You have the option to cast a shadow or not cast a shadow. A few other options here you can explore on your own time. That's not really the focus of this tutorial. But I'm just going to go ahead and Shift S to simulate that. Where is it here? All right, so here's our smoke. So regardless of which direction our camera is facing, again, the smoke is always going to be, facing our camera, creating the illusion of a 3D smoke billowing up into the sky there. Okay, but it's actually just a simple texture emitter that's using this sprite sheet down here under the diffuse channel to generate all this smoke. All right, so that's an example of the face cam. Let's go ahead and Shift S and stop that simulation there. Okay, the next one I'm going to show you here is the horizontal camera alignment. And for this one, I'm going to choose this ship ripple effect right here. And I'm also going to make this paper boat visible as well. We have the ship ripple actually attached, or linked rather, to the paper boat. So if we select the ship ripple, you can see down here we have a link, and it's linked to the backside of this paper boat. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look first at the ship ripple properties here. I'm just going to go ahead and press Shift S to simulate that. And you can see behind the boat we have this, ripple of, basically it's a horizontal ripple. When we go down to the side here, you can see it brightens up, and if we go from above, it's basically along the ground plane. So what I'm going to do here is there's a couple other options that you can check out here. Down here we have different blend modes. So you can see right now we have alpha blend mode on. There's a number of different ones. We can choose additive blend mode if you wanted to have like some kind of spaceship exhaust or something coming from the back of this paper boat. You can do that using the additive blend. And you can also use alpha blend no lit right here. And this is probably the best one to use because it has the minimal distortion, or the minimal amount of muddiness, I guess, for your properties for like a ship ripple or something like that. So this is probably the best one to use. And you can see here we also have align mode horizontal. We can choose vertical and face cam and everything like that as well. I'm just choosing horizontal for the purposes of this. So let's press Shift S to stop that. And then if we just play back, I actually have the ship moving around, and it'll link. You can see the distortion will kind of follow the ship, just moving around like that, okay? In case you didn't catch it the first time, let's watch it again from a different angle. There we go. Alright, so pretty cool stuff. You can just imagine that gray grid is actually a water texture or something like that instead. Okay, so for our next example, let's take a look at a vertical billboard emitter. And for this example, I'm going to be using this rain particle effect. You can find the rain under the PopcornFX Library 40 folder here, and under nature, since rain is in fact part of nature, you'll find it right here, in case you want to try it out for yourself. Let's go back to our scene manager here, and just go ahead, and I'm going to actually turn off my main spotlight here, just kind of darken our scene to create higher contrast for the rain particles so you can see them a little bit better. Let's Shift S there and simulate, and you'll see the rain begin to fall down from the top of our scene to the bottom of our scene along the global axis. And if I rotate my camera upwards, you'll see that the particles aren't following the camera. They are following the up and down on the world axis. And you can see that we have the rain falling towards the ground all around us here. Okay, we can go back down like this, and you can see it's pouring outside. So tons and tons and tons of practical uses for this particle effect. I really recommend checking it out. Okay, let's just Shift S to end that simulation. Let's restart our spotlight there, and let's just kind of make sure we have it in the right position here. Let's make it visible so we can actually see it. There we go. All right, and let's go to the next one, which is velocity-based billboard. So I'm going to deactivate the rain, and I'm going to go deactivate this poker emitter here. And if we select the poker emitter, let's just simulate that. You can see, boom, we have these cards shooting out from our emitter, and notice they're curving towards where the velocity is taking them. So as they're going, closer towards the ground, they're kind of curving down towards the ground, and they're shooting out directly, vertically, at the beginning of the emitter right there. So when the strength of the velocity is the strongest, they're shooting out directly according to the velocity, and they'll curve according to gravity or what have you later on. All right, so that's a pretty cool example. Just you could use this for a variety of situations, like a fountain or something. This example could probably be a casino advertisement or something like that. All right, so let's take a look now at the ribbon emitter. So on the left here in the scene manager, I have the ribbon selected here, and I'll activate it. So I'm going to go to my popcorn tab and simulate it. You can see here we have this kind of cool looking curvy, ghostly ribbon just shooting off like this. It'd be kind of ideal for a ghost type scenario, I imagine. Anyway, so let's take a look deeper into this ribbon, what exactly it is. All right, so I'm just going to Shift S to end that simulation there. And let's go all the way down here to our particle section. In the particle section, we have our alpha blend right here. And we have this alpha blend unlit. This is the one here that we want to choose for the diffuse map. You can see currently it's just a flat blue. So if I Shift S to simulate, we just have that flat blue simulation there, amongst a couple of others there with the alpha remapper and everything. But I'm just going to show you how the ribbons kind of connect together, how they emit from the particle. We'll talk about all these little items in this list a little bit later on in a different tutorial. But for this one here, I'm just going to show you how you can change this diffuse channel. I'm going to go to my image tab right here, and I have a numbered image. You can see where exactly the numbers are placed on your ribbon. So I'm going to go ahead and click and drag that into my diffuse channel and Shift S and simulate that. And there you can see we have the ghostly numbers just emitting up like that in a kind of curvy, ghostly fashion. Okay, so you can see the 1, 2, and the 3, and the 4 just connected like that. All right, so you can kind of connect them closer together if you want. You can connect them in a continuous ribbon if you want. But I'm just going to kind of showing you here an example of how this ribbon emitter works. Now, the cool thing about the ribbon emitter is you can actually move the dummy around as well. The actual dummy itself, a little blue thing here. If I press the W hotkey, I can just move it in different directions as I emit the particles. You can kind of have it going like woo, up into the atmosphere. It's the ghost of Christmas past. All right, and we can also rotate it using the E hotkey. Okay, so if you want to have something like this, we can shoot it off in this direction or that direction. Okay, so pretty cool stuff. So you can emit it towards the camera or further away from the camera as well, if you want. There you go. Have it shoot off into the distance there. All right, so just kind of the cool things that you can do with this particle emitter. A good example of this, I'm just going to go over here onto my power shadow item right here. So I'm going to power shadow and activate the power shadow. Let's deactivate the ribbon, and the power shadow should be down here. All right, so you can see here with the power shadow, if we go down here with the, let's just make sure that's selected there. And you can see we have in the diffuse channel here, we have these kind of streams of electricity and stuff just shooting off, and they're kind of connecting together to create this cool, almost like ethereal, magical pattern like this. And we also have some smoke there as well, little puffs of smoke in this sprite sheet right here. All right, so there's light lines and dark lines as well. If I end the simulation there, you can see. And yeah, so that's basically it for the particle emitter, or not the particle emitter, the ribbon emitter rather. So a pretty good example of that. And you can find the power shadow item in the content manager, again, under your set tab, under particles. Once you have the PopcornFX library, it's in the magic section. The magic library right here, you'll find the power shadow item right there. Okay, so pretty cool stuff. All right, so that's about all there is for this ribbon. And we're going to move on to the mesh emitter now. I'm just going to end the simulation here. Okay, so I'm just going to enable this mesh emitter here. And let's Shift S to simulate that. You can see we're actually emitting actual meshes right here. Okay, so keep in mind that these are actual meshes that it's emitting, so they cast shadows. If you rotate the light source, it's going to cast shadows in different directions here. But yeah, basically it's actually emitting actual meshes. Okay, so keep that in mind. And let's just Shift S to end that simulation there. Now, if you wanted to, you can use, you can select any mesh. So you can bring in your own mesh here. I already have a mesh actually imported into the scene, this mesh cone you can see down here. All right, so if I wanted to, emit this kind of mesh cone, you can go up here to create and create primitive shape and create a cone that way. Okay, these are really useful for the emission mesh emitter. Okay, so let's go ahead and select that types of mesh there, the mesh emitter, or a popcorn tab, and then all you have to do is go ahead and use the pick target tool and pick your target. All right, so now we have a different mesh. It's called mesh cone, and if we simulate that, Now we're shooting off cones into the sky. All right. So they are actual meshes, again, being shot up into the sky. Pretty cool stuff. That's really all there is to it. There's a really cool example of the mesh emitter that I can show you here now that we're kind of familiar with the basics. Let's just end that simulation. This cast meteor one, okay, this cast meteor one's pretty cool. Let's just enable that. You can find the cast meteor in the Popcorn Library 40 pack again here. And this one actually includes sound. You can see it has cast meteor right there under magic again. Let's go ahead and take a look at this one. So Shift S. You can see we're sending fiery wrath down onto our gray grid here. All right. So those are meteors, and again, those flaming tails there are just billboards. Okay. But the meteors are actual meshes themselves. Okay. So this is the meteor is a combination of a number of different emitter types. The billboard for the flames, and the mesh actually for the meteors are actual meshes themselves. All right, so you can see with the global illuminations kind of lighting up the ground there upon impact. Pretty cool stuff. All right, so there's a lot of different options for you, a lot of different ways to be creative using these emission types rather. The mesh emitter, the ribbon emitter, and the billboard emitter, texture emitter rather, in the form of different billboards. Let's just stop this wrath falling down from the heavens here. Alright, so that's really all there is to it, guys. That's all I want to mention here. So hopefully you learned a lot. And again, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you check out our other PopcornFX tutorials on our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions, we have a lot of people willing to answer them at our forums at forum.reallusion.com. And I'll see you in the next video.